Have you ever stood in a crowded room surrounded by people speaking a language you thought you were learning, only to realize you understood absolutely nothing? It's not because you didn't study the vocabulary. It's not because you didn't memorize the flashcards. It's because the very way you see the world is fundamentally different from the way they see it. There is a moment that almost every foreigner in the Philippines experiences. It usually happens 3 or 4 months in. You're sitting at a dinner table in Manila or Cebu or Davao. The food is great, the laughter is loud, and you feel confident. You want to say something simple. You want to say, "I cut the chicken." Simple, right? Subject, verb, object. I cut chicken. So you say, "Nag-hiwa ako ang manok," and everyone nods. You got it right. But then 5 minutes later, your friend tells a story and he says, "Hiniwa kayo ang manok," and you freeze. Wait, why did the verb change? Why did ako become kayo? Why did ng become ang? Both sentences mean "I cut the chicken," but to a Filipino ear, those two sentences paint two completely different pictures of reality. To an English speaker, they are synonyms. To a Tagalog speaker, the entire universe of the sentence just shifted. This is the hidden wall. This is the moment where most learners quit. They think Tagalog is just a hard language with too many prefixes and suffixes, but they are wrong. The difficulty isn't in the grammar. The difficulty is in the philosophy. English is a language of the ego. It is a language of the I ran. I ate, I conquered. The spotlight is almost always on the doer. But Tagalog? Tagalog is a language of the we, of the environment, of the connection between things. It doesn't care about your ego. It cares about where the spotlight is shining in the room. Today, we aren't just going to learn a grammar rule. We are going to break your brain a little bit. We are going to peel back the layers of one of the most fascinating linguistic systems on Earth, something linguists call the Austronesian Alignment, to uncover why Filipino languages are designed the way they are. And by the end of this journey, you won't just understand how to conjugate a verb. You will understand why the Filipino soul is wired for connection, empathy, and community. You will see why, in the Philippines, you can never truly be the center of the universe. Let's go back to that dinner table. To understand this brain-breaking rule, we have to first understand how English speakers are trained to think. Imagine a stage. In English, the main actor, the subject, walks onto the stage, the spotlight hits them, and they do something. The boy ate the fish. The boy is the star. The fish is just a prop, but in Tagalog, the stage director, the speaker, has a choice. The director can say, "You know what? The boy isn't interesting right now. The fish is the most important thing here." So the director flips a switch. The spotlight moves off the boy and on to the fish. The boy is still eating it, but grammatically, the boy steps into the shadows, and the fish glows. This is the focus system, and this is what drives English speakers crazy. In English, we have active and passive voice. We say, "I ate the fish," or "the fish was eaten by me." The passive voice sounds clunky, formal, almost robotic. We are taught in school to avoid it. But in Tagalog, that passive style is actually the default way of speaking for almost everything. In fact, calling it passive is an insult to the language. It's not passive, it's objective. Think about what that implies about the culture. If your default way of speaking highlights the object or the location or the person receiving your help rather than yourself, what does that do to your psychology over 1,000 years? Let's look at the word Billy. Buy. Simple, right? If I want to focus on myself as the buyer, I say bumili ako. But if I want to focus on the thing I bought, I say binili kayo. If I want to focus on the person I bought it for, I say I binili ku. If I want to focus on the store where I bought it, I say binilhan ku. One word, buy. 4 distinct realities. The English brain panics here. It asks, which one is correct? And the Filipino brain answers, they are all correct. It just depends on what matters to you right now. This flexibility is beautiful, But it's also confusing because it requires you to have empathy. You cannot speak proper Tagalog if you don't understand the context of the room. You have to know what your listener is interested in. Are they asking about you? Use the actor focus. Are they asking about the delicious lechon on the table? You better switch to object focus, or you will sound strange. It's like a camera lens. English is a selfie camera. Tagalog is a cinematic camera with 4 different lenses that you have to switch on the fly mid-sentence without thinking. But where did this come from? Why did the ancestors of the Philippines develop this system? To find the answer, we have to look at the history of the archipelago. Before the Spanish, before the Americans, the Philippines was a maritime culture. It was a culture of trade, of distinct communities, of bayanihan, the spirit of communal unity. In a boat, in a barangay, the individual is less important than the collective goal. If we are rowing a boat, saying "I am rowing" matters less than "the boat is being rowed." The object, the boat, is our survival. Linguists believe this focus system is a remnant of that ancient worldview. It is a linguistic fossil of a society that valued the collective experience over the individual exploit. When you say "mahal kita" for "I love you," have you ever analyzed it? Kita is a dual pronoun. It doesn't mean I to you. It creates a fusion between the speaker and the listener. It's a specific relationship word. In English, "I love you" is 3 words, 3 separate islands: subject, verb, object. In Tagalog, the relationship is baked into the pronoun itself. The grammar forces a connection. This is why foreigners struggle. They try to translate word for word. They take an English thought, "I cooked the rice," and they look up "I" and "cooked" and "rice" in the dictionary. They stick them together and say, "Ako luto kanin," and Filipinos will smile. They will understand you. But you sound like a caveman. You sound like a caveman because you stripped the soul out of the sentence. You stripped out the markers, the ang, the ng, the sa. These little words are the traffic lights of the sentence. They tell you where the spotlight is. If you remove them, or if you use them wrong, you are driving blindly through the intersection. Let's dig deeper into the ang marker. This is the golden ticket. Whatever word follows ang is the king of the sentence. It is the topic. If I say Kumain and Bata, the child is the topic. If I say Kinain and Ista, the fish is the topic. English speakers have a hard time accepting that an inanimate object, like a fish or a shoe or a cloud, can be the grammatical subject of a sentence without it sounding weird. We want to be the agents. We want control. Tagalog forces you to give up control. It forces you to let the world act upon you. There is a profound humility in the language. There is a concept in Filipino psychology called kapwa, the shared self. The idea that you are not distinct from others. The language reflects this. When you tell a story in Tagalog, you are constantly negotiating the focus. You are constantly shifting the camera to highlight the other person, the food, the location, the instrument. You are rarely just talking about yourself. Imagine the cognitive load this takes. When a Filipino child learns to speak, they aren't just learning vocabulary. They are learning to constantly analyze the context of a situation. They are learning to ask, what is important right now? This might explain why Filipinos are often cited as some of the most empathetic and hospitable people in the world. Their very language trains them to look outside of themselves. Now, let's get specific with a nightmare scenario for learners. The difference between mag and Both are used for the actor focus. Both put the spotlight on the doer. So when do you use which? Is it mag cape or kumape to drink coffee? The textbooks give you rules. They say mag is for external actions and is for internal actions. Or mag is for deliberate actions and is for natural actions. But the truth is murkier. It's about nuance. It's about the feeling of the action. Native speakers don't choose these forms logically. They choose them emotionally. And that's the point. Sometimes using the wrong affix doesn't make you wrong. It just changes the flavor. It changes the intensity. It's the difference between I ran and I went for a run. And then there is the ability aspect. In English, I saw the movie and I was able to see the movie are very different structures. In Tagalog, you just swap a prefix. Nakita ku versus kanita ku, a tiny sound change, purely instinctual to a local, but a massive headache for a learner. But here is the good news. If you are learning Tagalog, or if you are a Filipino, relearning the depths of your own language, this brain-breaking rule is actually a gift. Once you stop fighting it, once you stop trying to force Tagalog into an English box, it unlocks a new way of thinking. You start to notice things. You start to notice the texture of the rice, kinain, versus the act of eating, kumain. You start to notice the specific instrument you use to fix the car, ipinang-ayos, versus the car itself, inayos. The world becomes richer. The language forces you to pay attention to details that English ignores. English glosses over the how and the ow. What to get to the who, Tagalog lingers on the how and the what. It savors the texture of reality. There's a famous saying, to have a second language is to possess a second soul. If you speak English, you have a soul that values agency, directness, and the individual. If you learn Tagalog, truly learn it, deep down in the grammar you develop a soul that values connection, context, and the collective. So the next time you hear a Filipino speaking and the sentence structure seems backwards, remember, it's not backwards. It's just focused on something else. They aren't putting the cart before the horse. They're just highlighting the cart because right now the cart is what carries the harvest. For the Filipinos watching this, realize the genius of your mother tongue. It is a highly sophisticated, mathematically complex system that encodes your history and your values into every single sentence you speak. It is not just dialect. It is an engineering marvel of human communication. And for the non-Filipinos struggling to learn it, don't give up. The moment it clicks, the moment you instinctively switch from actor focus to object focus, without translating in your head, is the moment you stop being a tourist in the Philippines and start becoming part of the family. The language doesn't just describe the Philippines. The language is the Philippines. It is complex, it is interconnected, it is resilient, and it is beautiful. And yes, it will break your brain. But maybe, just maybe, your brain needed to be broken so it could be put back together in a better way. So go out there, make mistakes, use the wrong focus, get laughed at, laugh at yourself. But keep listening for the spotlight. Because once you see the light, you will never be in the dark again.